character that I've enjoyed, I've got to say, there was a film that I did many years ago, and it was right before Traffic, and it's called The Blue Diner, and it ended up having a life on HBO Latino, and also PBS. I think it was an ITVS related, but it was a show where, I mean, I'm sorry, it was a movie where I got to play an artist, and I got to play a character that was a lot like this, like what you see, with my mannerisms. It was so connected to the way I think, this character, the spontaneous way that he could be, more so back years ago than now, right? And the way I talk, I didn't necessarily have to be talking like this, or I necessarily, didn't have to be a certain way. And it was beautiful. It was like, it was like butter. It was like playing a character that was jovial, you know. Yeah, people always, they're so into, oh, I have to act my age. And this was the type of character who didn't care about what people think, and he was, just very free. And in The Blue Diner, and the character's name was Tito, and it was an amazing job. I had fun doing it, and I always think back, wow, out of all the characters that I played, I enjoy all of them, but that's the one that that was a wonderful roller coaster ride. That was the ride that you pay your ticket to go on, and you go on, and you're like, I want to go again, I want to go again, I want to go again. That was what that experience was for me.
If I'm not mistaken, for those that may not know, your mom is a stage, on-screen actress, Teresa Yenque. She was in that film.
Yes, she was. All right, so the writer and the producer, Natasha Estebanez, she wrote a scene to bring my mom in, and it was this really funny scene. And honestly, if in case you don't know, the comedy is done, not to be funny. You do it, you're invested in this moment, and if it's funny, it's irony. Yeah, sure, it's funny. And my mom played this woman buying a casket for her dog, and how serious she was. And I remember she was on the set. We shot this in Boston. And hold on a second. They're hammering over there somewhere. I don't know. Zoom, yeah.
It's the new normal.
And I remember she was on the set, and I was watching her do the takes, and it was great. And then I had a shoot that day, and then she was watching me do my takes, and that was the first time we ever had that experience. And so we were in the same movie. We didn't share the same scenes, but we were there while the other one was shooting. And we'd go back, and we've got the director, John Eagleson, did an amazing job. But obviously, my first acting coach was my mom. And for during that movie, I was her acting coach. So if there was something that Jan didn't see, or something that we know about each other, come on, we're mother son, I'd go back and I'd be like, okay, Mom, what you think? Nice. And she'd say stuff, she was always really, she told me what, the real deal. She'll say, just relax some more, just relax. Or she'll say something like, okay, let me try that. All right, boom, boom, go back, action. And then I do it. Same thing with her. We ended up working on the same TV show later on, called The Division. And mind you, the actress who I got to work with was an amazing actress and an amazing person too. A lot of fun. God, she was so much fun. Lisa Vidal. She played my love interest in The Blue Diner. Years later,
I saw a glimpse of that actually yesterday. Yeah. That was intense as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's
You're in the kitchen. If I'm not, I remember seeing a scene in the kitchen, and it's in Spanish.
Yeah, so the movie is in English and Spanish. It's an amazing movie. I don't know where it's available right now, but it was great, because it was a story that doesn't necessarily have to be Latino, but it happened to be that we were Latinos, and it was about a woman who during some kind of a minor stroke, an aphasia they call it, she loses her ability to speak Spanish. So the movie is in English and in Spanish, and the scene that I remember, that scene, uh, we had several scenes in Spanish, but that scene what you're talking about is a love scene. And that was my first love scene that I did.
It seemed like a love scene. You were mad.
Oh no, no, oh no! It starts off with an argument, and then it goes into making up, which is the way it always happens, right?
Yeah, all I remembered, it wasn't a romantic love scene.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you were talking about the one where we're arguing, and then she's yelling at me, and I kind of yell at her, and then, well, I mean, I remember back then my Spanish wasn't good, and her Spanish wasn't the greatest either, and so we would, like, as a rehearsal, we would go out. We were in Boston. We would go to dinner. I say, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat. From this point on, we're only going to speak Spanish. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge because you want to go right into English. And I know she's a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. Come on. No. And then we had, ¿qué vamos a pedir de comer? Looking at the menu. Mira, a mí me gusta how do you say frog legs? Pata de rana. And it was a trip. And I remember this like it happened yesterday. And but my Spanish ended up getting really good afterwards. And I think that happened because that movie kind of started it. I realized, oh wow, I really got to get on my Spanish. And but working in Tijuana, my Spanish is now bam. It's like that. But back then, I had to try to train myself to think in Spanish. So not think in English and then translate and then have it come out. I try to think.
No, I completely understand because my first language is Spanish because I only speak in Spanish to my parents. Mm-hmm. And so if you ask me when did I learn English, I don't actually remember. I'm thinking Sesame Street. Sesame Street, Electric Company, but I just know that when I went to kindergarten, I spoke both languages. But when I think in English.
You think in English?
I did. That's interesting because I think in English, and my parents instilled in me at a very young age. So now I continue it is if I would start saying something, if I was talking in Spanish and spoke English, my dad would say, pick a language. But none of this mixing the two. And so now the tables have turned because my dad, what was it the other day? He said something. And I said, that's not in English. I don't remember what it was, but now there are certain words that have just become so common practice. And so I'm correcting them. I'm like, that is so not Spanish.
I mean, it's like, it could be Spanglish too. I grew up in New York where everybody talks Spanglish. You start the sentence off in English and you throw a little Spanish in there. And then, it was normal. It wasn't until in 2005, I went to Mexico City and I shot a film. And I didn't realize how frowned upon it was to mix both languages. I got these looks when I was trying to talk to somebody. If I couldn't think of it in Spanish, I say, well, the post office. I would just say whatever, and they're like, whoa! I remember, well, at least the group of people that I was around, look at me like this, and you think I would have, did something so wrong, but yeah, it's Spanish is it's a beautiful language, and you'll see, like in the movie The Blue Diner, it really celebrates the language, identity, culture, and all that. And that was something that was having my mom on the set, that memory of her watching me do my takes, do hers. All of that is something that I hold dear to me. And what's interesting that Mabel, being in this safer at home. Being at home a lot, I got a lot done. And I've had movie posters laying around, a roll over here, there's another roll over there, one is under the bed. And I actually got to organize my movie posters. And I was looking at The Blue Diner. It's funny, I must have channeled that to you. I was looking at Wednesday Afternoon, The Blue Diner, and Beginners, which is another film that I got to work in. And when you look at the poster, like, give you an example, Wednesday Afternoon, that was a film that ended up winning the Student Academy Award. And I throw that out there because it earned it. It really, really did earn it. And it was an amazing experience. Alfonso Mayo who was a student at AFI, American Film Institute. Remember, he called me and he said, come to the audition. And I went and I read, and I was reading with the young man who played my son. It was a father who was doing all the wrong, selling drugs, but he loved his son. He wanted to send him to a good school. And so, and Emery said, "Oh, there's no pay." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it doesn't matter." And I ended up doing that film and so I was looking at the posters and trying to remember the experience. And I don't ever remember working. I don't remember, like, this wasn't work, even waking up in the morning and being in the scenes. And I don't remember memorizing my lines or getting the character. It just was something that just happened beautifully. And it was effortless. Blue Diner was effortless. Beginners, which was years later, being in that scene, I was part of the Christopher Plummer's Friends, that group. I think my character's name was Robert. Effortless. It was just being there and just kind of being in this moment. And I looked at the posters and I was thinking, okay, you know what? I have to put these up. Why am I rolling them up and putting them together and putting them, in the closet? So I pulled those 3 posters out, and when we can get back to the stores, I'm probably going to get frames, maybe some chrome frames, and put them up like though this were a production house, which in a way it is a production house. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Well, we know you're an actor, you're a humanitarian, you're a brother, you're a son. You're also a dancer. I did not know that you had been formally trained in dancing and toured with West Side Story. Is this a hidden secret? Are we going to see you in a musical in the future?
No, are you kidding? You know what's interesting is I started off as an actor, right? When I was 14 years old, as I mentioned. And after that, I'll do little plays, and then it kind of like dwindled off, right? I mean, the acting was something just to kind of get me to live life, right? And I started to live life. Then when I was in high school, I went to a continuation high school, which was a city school, high school in New York, in Manhattan. And my guidance counselor back then, Patricia, oh my God, I'm blanking on her last name. Pat. There was an internship of going to Ballet Hispanico, because in order for you to get your credits, to get your high school diploma, they would send you out. So if you need a history credit, they send you to the Museum of Natural History, and you did a certain amount of hours there, on the job training, learning about history, and of course helping filing and all that stuff. I did the same thing. I needed phys ed credits, and they sent me to Ballet Hispanico, which was on 89th Street by Amsterdam, in New York City. And I ended up doing that, and you were mandatory to take, I think it was one ballet class, no, one flamenco class, and then one class of choice, something like that, mandatory a week. And so I did it. Flamenco was not my go-to. It wasn't at all. They had a jazz class there that I did, but it turned out that I was good at it. And so they ended up bringing me back in the summer. They gave me a scholarship. They put me as part of their apprentice company, and we did the tours and all that. So it was like cramming many, many years of training into a short amount of time. And it was grueling, but it was a discipline that I'll never forget. And from there, I was cast in a production of West Side Story in Europe. And it was the last of the Scala, it was production company, Scala Productions. And it was fun. I got to meet we went to Germany, on a bus. Wow. It was just, got to see Europe and even Turkey, Istanbul. We got on a plane and went to Istanbul and did the production out there. And I learned so much. And this is why I connected, especially with the character of Bernardo, because I finally I started off as Pepe, and then I ended up stepping in to play Bernardo. And then here in the United States, I did Bernardo in several states on several different productions. I connected with that character because my grandfather would tell me stories of him arriving here, in the United States. And he told me stories when I was young about how they were treated. My mom, my grandmother, they worked in a sewing factory. And this was in Brooklyn. And then my grandfather, and they told me stories. My grandfather told about stories about the way they were treated back then, and the discrimination. and I didn't connect with it because I didn't know what that was, and I couldn't relate with it. So when I got to play Bernardo, it was easy for me because I had already acted when I was younger, and it was easy for me to step into that. And I really appreciated. Thank God back then my grandfather was still alive, and I got to tell him and really tell him how much I connected with what the stories that he told me, and I remember I got emotional back then because with him because I got to live it in this role, this character, because obviously in West Side Story the Sharks and the Jets are clashing, and there's so much hate and there's so much of that animosity, just blatant. They're kids. You have to remember they are adolescents, but still, and that animosity, comes from somewhere, usually the parents. And so, I got to thank him, while he was still around, and say, you know what, thank you for sharing that experience with me, and thank you for going through that experience, and I'm using your story, your inspiration. I'm using it to make this character come to life every night, and I did. The reason that you don't see me dancing anymore is because I'm not a kid anymore. My back, I think in the last production of West Side Story that I did was one in Augusta, Georgia, and the show before the final show, I remember it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday, and I remember usually we're doing Jerome Robbins choreography, so it's very, very balletic. Of course, we're sharks, so we have these tight black jeans, which have some give, right? I didn't warm up. We had to celebrate the night before, and I thought, I got this. This is a piece of cake, and I just showed up. Everybody's warming up. I'm like, hey, I'm okay. I slacked off. And so when we had to go out there and we hit the beginning, and it was the prologue, and then there was the part where Bernardo and with his two guys they call the stake, and it's where they do that famous where they're up and they're staking, they're saying this is ours, this is our street. And when my leg went up, my back went out in the worst way. And I remember after that, I could feel the pinch, and I thought, this is not gonna. And I had to do the rest of the show. And backstage, they were putting all kinds of stuff on it. Somebody had a back brace. They put a back brace on me. I had to wear it under my T-shirt and my jacket. And after that, I said, I can't do this. If my back can go out that easy, then I've got to focus more on acting. And then that's what happened. I said, you know what? Let me pick a lane. Let me focus on the acting. Now I did the dance. I got to do, all this wonderful stuff. Let's put all my energy in this and see where this takes me. And that eventually took me to Los Angeles.
I'm curious, if the opportunity came up and it was like a film that's also a musical, would you even, I don't know that your agent would be thinking of you for that role or your fans could see you in that role, but would you even consider it?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. No, of course. Why not? You know something? I tell you, everything that I've gone through in this whole journey of life, everything I've gone through as a journey as a person, as an actor, as the founder of the organization Arts for Better Tomorrow, working with the kids in Tijuana, here in Los Angeles, everything has showed me that, you really have to lean into it. Lean into what? Lean into it. And whether it be something that you're not sure you feel comfortable doing, if it doesn't feel comfortable, lean into it and see what you can get out of it. And that's what, obviously, if it's something really dangerous, like, risk your life, no, leaning into it doesn't mean being stupid. But if it's something that really, maybe you feel, maybe I'm not prepared for it, maybe lean into it and see what happens, because you might be more prepared than what you thought you were. And so if something were to come out, of course, always wanted to play Magaldi in Evita. I've always wanted. Of course, my range. I'm a baritone, and that's a tenor. So you got to be able to sing that song really high. yeah, anything comes up, of course.
Throwing that in, we're throwing it out into the universe.
I'm trying to think now, what kind of musical would that be? I don't know, but it's something where, I mean, I'm not, I haven't used my skills as a dancer, and that's here, or as a singer. I haven't used them here. They haven't been called for. When you're playing the head of a Colombian cartel, he's most likely not going to sing, and he's most likely not going to dance. And so, one of the reasons
Well,
that
he made to break into Vallenato.
I tell you, you know what? I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to give it a shot for sure. I'm open to anything. Honestly, it's wherever the experience, wherever the journey takes me. I'm definitely willing to go, and I'm willing to try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, there's the worst thing that would be is that you don't even attempt it. Imagine living life and saying, "Oh man, I should have tried doing that. Oh, I could have tried doing that." I had my great time playing Bernardo in West Side Story, and I leave it even with the bad back. I thought I had a great time, and as I laid on the floor after the shark fight, I remember, because my character, Bernardo ends up getting stabbed, and then he lays on the floor, and then the curtain comes down. That's the end of Act One, and usually the guy comes in and he says, "Okay, guys, clear," and then we get up, and Riff got up and went out his wing, and I just stayed there, and they're like, "Jose, curtains down," and I'm like, "I can't move, get somebody," and they had to carry me over. It was fun. It was a lot of fun doing that. Yeah.
I know that scene well, so I'm envisioning that the scene's over, but you were probably so happy that scene you could actually lay down.
I was happy it was over, and I knew that it wasn't completely over because the character comes back in a dream. There's like in Act Two, there's a dream sequence. There's a dream, and it was from the dream with Somewhere and Tony Maria, You Want a Better World, and then there's and so they ended up bringing in the guy who plays my right hand man, Pepe. They said, "You have to come out and you have to do that little dream sequence," and so he did it. Was I going to do my curtain call? Hell yeah! I said, "You know what? If you got to wheel me out there, I'm doing my curtain call." And so they put a back brace on me, like I mentioned. And so obviously I was, they were massaging me all the way to the curtain call. On the curtain call, I was able to walk very slowly, but it just fit the character because the character was very regal and had a lot of, he had a lot of substance. And so he came out, it fit the part. You know what, I say this, look, like, whatever you're going through, and this is what I use, especially in acting, whatever you're going through at the moment, use it. We can try to hide it as much as possible, but use it. If it works, it works. And in this case, me walking like this, like this kind of mayor, kind of politician, it worked. It worked. But yeah, that was my last Bernardo. I had a lot of fun.
You were being authentic to yourself.
Yes, for sure. And I always revert back to, because you know how I said that my work with the kids is with Arts for Better Tomorrow is very connected to my work as an actor. All of the tools that us actors use to be able to go to auditions. We go to many auditions, some of us more than others, auditions, and there's a lot of rejection that comes into play. All right, how do you go out there and you bear yourself, and then it either works or it doesn't work. Whether it doesn't have to necessarily do with talent, with the look or whatever. It could be a little bit of everything, right? And so you really have to get a tough skin for this business. And so we work on ourselves, and we have to try to be good with ourselves and self-talk and all that. We meditate, we try to do all kinds of things, right? And so the same tools that we actors use to be able to be in front of a camera, to be able to go in front of an audition, in front of a line of producers and do our thing, those same tools are what I put into this acting workshop called Breaking Barriers. And we present these to the kids. And so we have these kids participating in these workshops. that goes hand in hand. That definitely goes hand in hand. Um, it really makes me feel alive. I don't know if you ever heard, maybe sometimes people say, "Oh, when I'm on stage, I feel alive,"
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
It's and there's a lot of people who don't understand that concept. So it's kind of like this. For those who don't understand, is when you find your family and you find your thing. And for me, this was acting when I was 14. When I was 14, turning 15 years old, I was sitting there and we're doing all kinds of theater games and kind of weird, uncomfortable, out of your comfort zone things. I looked around and I said, "This is my family. I finally found home. This is where I belong. I belong here. These are my people." And so um, this is kind of like that kind of way of thinking is what we try to show the kids. You know, you definitely have to find who you are and oh, but how do I do it? How do I do it? Find something to do, try different things, and you're going to land on something where you're going to feel the connection.
Exactly.
And when you feel that connection, you'll know when you feel it. I don't have to explain how it's going to feel. You'll know how it feels, and then you'll be like, okay, this is it. This is home. And so, and it's ironic that we started working with orphanages with a group of kids who don't feel like they have a home. Group of kids who stop feeling alive. They stopped feeling alive many years ago. Most of them come from trauma, some kind of abuse of some sort. Abandonment is already an abuse. So sometimes it starts chipping away, and you stop feeling that alive. And so what we're trying to do is with these workshops is get them to reconnect with themselves, and then also start to love themselves, and then boom, start coming alive. And we call it breaking barriers because it's breaking down that protective barrier that we hold in front of each other, and bam, and that's always been the goal. And I got to tell you, Bernardo, the characters of Bernardo, Tito from the Blue Diner, Alberto from Wednesday Afternoon, uh, Glenn from On My Block, all of these characters have taught me that, and has helped me come to this conclusion that this is what we have to teach our kids. It's not just about self-expression; it even goes deeper than that, and that's where that comes from. You asked me a question, right? I totally forgot what the question was.
And then so much more. I'm like in a trance right now, just listening, and it's like.
And I'm in a trance too, I think.
But no, it's lovely to see the authenticity, to see the passion, that vulnerability come out, and I'm just so appreciative. And thank you for you mentioned home. Thank you for joining me in our respective homes.
Yes.
It's so nice to see you at home, and this is a home base and work base for me. And just thank you so much for spending a little time with me and sharing a little bit about your experience during this pandemic. What's been happening with you career-wise. And in the spirit of being authentic, being that this is a Zoom interview, I've been having a little pop-up that I don't know if it's going to appear. So I'm just sharing so that it may not. However, I like to be authentic and transparent. So it's possible that a little pop-up of calendar may come up. Or
Oh,
so
well, I don't see it. I don't see your calendar.
it could be on my end.
I think it's on your end. Let me see. Do I see it? You know what? You're not getting your nails done today. You can cancel that hair appointment.
But I thought I'd mention it just in case it comes up and viewers.
No, it's not coming up. Hey, Mabel, I wanted to say just one more thing before we leave. Is something I have. The Breaking Barriers acting program that we have through Arts for Better Tomorrow is actually at two schools here in LA. And there are two continuation high schools. Oh, there goes that word again, continuation high school. And one of them is Frida Kahlo Continuation High School, which is in downtown Los Angeles. And the other one is the one where I first launched this project. I launched the Breaking Barriers many years ago, which was at Highland Park Continuation High School. And what I want to say is we have about like 9 at Highland Park Continuation High School, and we have probably about 6 students at Frida Kahlo High School who are graduating in June. And I'm so proud of them. And I just want to say a big shout out to the students of Highland Park Continuation High School, Frida Kahlo Continuation High School. You know, we got Crystal, Michael, Jose Aguilar. We have Sarai, Elliot. God, I'm getting choked up now. That's why my memory's going. I just want to say to all of you, I mean, you guys did it. You know, this is, we are all very proud of you. And I know that you should be very, very proud of yourselves. And it's not over. It's not over. If you guys are welcome to come back, and please, I can show you how to teach this class, and you guys can teach the class at the same school if you like. And we've had an amazing journey during these years at Highland Park and Frida Kahlo High School, and definitely it's been an honor, and a pleasure to learn from you and to be able to share with you our experiences of what the actor's journey, what the actor goes through. Un fuerte abrazo.